Are you tired of chasing shiny objects and falling for all of the latest business fads only to end up disappointed and unfulfilled? In this episode, me and 3 of my business friends, who I personally business my business with, talk about how it is time to ditch the one-size-fits-all approach so that you can craft a strategy that aligns with your unique values, goals, and audience. In this episode, Celi Arias, Annie P. Ruggles, and Portia James, plus myself, dive into why strategy is so important, why strategy cannot be one size fits all, and how to start identifying what your business strategy needs to be if all of the silver bullet strategies have not yet worked for you. Please enjoy this episode and let us know how you like it. I can tell you've got big goal energy. Are you ready to turn your wildest dreams into your everyday reality? You are in the right place. Welcome to Big Goal Energy, the podcast that helps you turn your audacious and delusional dreams into your everyday life. We know that you don't settle for the ordinary, that you have dreams which others may deem unrealistic. But here, we help you defy reality and bring those dreams to life. Each episode of Big Goal Energy empowers you with knowledge, inspiration, and mentorship to conquer your most unrealistic goals. From transparent roundtable conversations to short-form episodes, you'll hear the experiences of women who have defied reality, as well as learn practical tips and strategies to fuel your journey. Join us by subscribing to Big Goal Energy, and together we'll turn your audacious dreams into remarkable achievements. Hey everyone, welcome back to this episode of Big Goal Energy. I am very blessed today to be joined by 3 really fucking wicked smart women who know strategy like the back of their hands, and they have so many genius insights. Not to hype you guys up at all, set expectations, but I chose these 3 women for a reason, and I'm just really excited for them to be here with me talking about why strategy is so important and how to find your best fit strategy. Going to kick off with each of them telling you a little bit about them, who they are, and then also why they believe that strategy is an essential component for entrepreneurship and business. Portia, will you kick us off?
Hey, I sure will. Hi, everyone. My name is Portia James. I am a board certified behavior analyst. I'm the CEO and founder of Behavior Genius, a behavior treatment center for children with autism here in Southern California. Strategy is at the forefront, never in the back. It's always at the forefront of everything that I do. As an entrepreneur, it's so important to have a strategy and to change and update that strategy on a very regular basis because so much is going on, y'all. There's so many things that can happen. There are so many variables. And then I'm a mother. I have 3 children. So having a clear strategy has not only helped me to navigate my business and make sure that we're staying the course and going the direction that we want to go, but also just there's times when I have a lot of innovation and a lot of creative energy, and there's times when I don't. And I need to kind of pass off a little bit to other people. And so having a clear strategy, especially if it's written down, makes it possible to just navigate, in and out of the day-to-days of life and business.
Cool. Celi, you want to go next?
Sure. I am Celi Arias. I am a business growth strategist and certified mindset coach, and I'm the founder and CEO of The Grown Ass Business. And I feel like that is a bigger question because that is the root of everything that I do is what is strategy? What is actually strategy versus a plan? And how do you build a strategy correctly? And what do you do with it? So I feel like we're going to get into that. But for me, a strategy is important because it is the actual unique path that you are going to take to get to where you want to go. And if you don't have a strategy that's built for you, and in this case, business, because we're talking about business, you're ultimately walking somebody else's path.
Yeah.
And you're building the business that looks like someone else's. And then you wonder why you hate the journey that you're on or you hate the business that you build. That's where I think people misunderstand strategy and what it's meant to do, which is you can actually carve out your own path and get to the desired endpoint if you have the strategy that's built for you. This is going to be a fun conversation, I feel like.
I already have so much to say about all of that, but we're going to go to Annie P. Ruggles next. Annie, tell us who you are and why strategy is essential.
What a great question. Hey, y'all. I am Annie P. Ruggles. I am the founder of the Non-Sleazy Sales Academy and QuirkWorks Consulting. Like Celi, strategy is kind of my everything, but the reason for that is because there were multiple years where I played at having a business where I didn't have a strategy, and I discovered that the opposite opposite of strategy for me is waste, because so much marketing and so much selling, which are my lanes that I hang out in, is experimentation. And we can't get around that. It just is. How do you know what language is going to resonate until you try it? How do you know what offer is going to hit until you put it out there? How do you know what ad's going to run better than the other ads until you do it, right? There's so much built-in experimentation, but without strategy, for me and for my clients, I've seen it become this cash-eating monster of spray and pray metrics, and it just becomes this beast of money and time and energy without that golden rule of strategy or backbone of strategy to realign to, of giving your experiment parameters and a timeline and metrics to look for.
Celi said something that I kind of want to start all of us on. This idea of having a strategy that doesn't fit you. We've all done this before, right? Like we've all just taken a strategy that someone said like it works and we've been like, great. Celi and I both we're fashion designers in a past life, and people come to me still and they're like, hey, will you take me shopping? Like I can just never find things off the rack that fit me. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to ready to wear. Nothing is fit for every body. If you want clothes that fit you, got to take it to a tailor. You need a good tailor. You don't need someone to take you shopping differently because the clothes still aren't going to fit you. Maybe each of you can kind of talk about how you got into knowing why strategy was so important, and maybe through the lens of contrast of what wasn't strategy or other strategies that were given to you and said like, this will just fit you off the rack, take it, run with it.
I'm kind of mad you came up with that fashion analogy because I've never thought about that, but you're right. I know for a fact that I have a long torso because no dresses or swimsuits fit me. Like the waist always hits me in the ribs. And that's kind of what strategy is like. Like, how did I figure that out? I've been a COO and consultant for many, many years, and I've been in business for 30 years. Even as a coach and consultant to small businesses, you start to see that the thing that everyone's trending on right now, which I always make this fashion analogy, right? It's like Daisy Dukes weren't meant for everyone. Right? Like low waist hip hugger jeans weren't meant for everyone. That TikTok strategy or that Instagram strategy or the have AI write your best-selling book strategy or just be a speaker even if you're shy and awkward on stage because that's going to get you more, like all of those things are just bad fashion trends. And over time for myself, what happened when I was coaching more and more and more clients, when I was a head coach at a coaching company, I just kept seeing things not work for people. And I got curious about why. Why is this thing that everyone's talking about and every bro marketer is selling, why is it not working for this person? And then I realized like, oh yeah, because let's say you're a dentist. That strategy has nothing to do with your audience. And if you try to sell a digital pre-recorded course to dentists who are busy and stressed out, it just is completely irrelevant to them. And I just kept seeing this happen over and over again. So I got more and more curious about what are the variables that we need to pull and pick on to figure out what's right for you and your audience and your product and your goals. And then your strategy becomes this combination of tools and tactics and journeys that are right for all of those factors, rather than, well, my friend who's in the same coaching program that I'm in is doing this, so I'm going to do it. I mean, it happens even in my coaching program where somebody in the room will say, I just did XYZ and it'll work. And then 3 people will be like, ooh, can you give me your SOP for that? Can you tell me, ooh, I want to know how, and I'll be like, no, put that down, put it down. That's not for you. That worked for her and it's not for you. And I'm like, this is literally the thing we're undoing in my community. We're undoing that every day. That temptation to want to wear, I don't know about y'all, but I could never wear hip huggers in my bestest of days. It's just not for my body. And it's the same thing in business. It's like that strategy will never work for you, your product, your pricing, and your audience. And I'm constantly telling people to put the bone down, put it down.
I love that. And I love how you said earlier, it's your unique plan for where you want to go, which is really important because I'm in an industry where everybody's kind of doing the same thing. And I've been in this industry for 20 years in behavior analysis, and everyone's building their business in kind of the same way. And I actually had a different journey figuring out that I needed a strategy. For me, I was sitting in a corporate seat. So I was in these like boardrooms with people who, supposedly were the big wigs. These were like the higher ups. I felt like I had finally made it. I was able to see see what was going on in their business. And they didn't have a strategy. Like every time I would bring up an idea that felt a little strategic, they would like scoff at me. They would laugh. This is like CEO, chief clinical officer, chief of finance. I was a wreck to them. I had it all wrong. Literally one day we were in a board meeting, and I feel like this is where you bring the strategy to and where you talk about the strategy for the company. And I had brought this elaborate plan. Like, this is what I think we should do, how we should execute it. This is what I project to be the outcome. And the CEO looked at me. She was much like Miranda. We were talking about Miranda from The Devil Wears Prada a little earlier. She was very much like her. She looked at me and she goes, "Oh God, can't we just throw some balls in the air and see where they land?" And I was like, "What?" No, first of all, I'm a data analyst, so I can't even take the next step without clear analysis. She didn't want to be boxed into a strategy. And so when I started my company, I knew that the first thing I needed was a plan. But I did get dragged into kind of what you said, Celi, was trying to go by what I had seen and build a strategy around what I had seen, even though I had never seen a strategy. And I realized about 2 years in, I was like, okay, that doesn't work because I have my own mission, my own vision, my own values. And truly, this industry is no reflection of any of that, like of what I value, of who I am, what my mission is. And so I've had to rebuild my company based on a strategy that fit who I am and where I want to go and what I value. I definitely had that journey where like I did it wrong, because when you don't have an example, you start listing like what we're not going to do. Like we're like, okay, well, as long as I don't do this and as long as I don't make this mistake and as long as I don't look like them when I'm doing this, that's not a strategy. Part 2 of that was me uncovering like, well, what's left? You know, what is me? What am I bringing to the table and what am I creating and how am I going about doing that so that other people can kind of jump on board and help me build this thing? That beast thing that you were talking about, Annie, definitely experienced that, like building the beast and then having to tame this beast.
I'm curious, why do you think that entrepreneurs are uncomfortable with strategy?
I think people don't think about like strategy and analysis and I think it feels structured for people. A lot of entrepreneurs are creative. We go into entrepreneurship with all this creative energy and we just want to like create, but building takes so much left brain thinking. And so it's difficult to think in systems. And for many people, it doesn't come naturally. People think that they need someone to help them with their strategy, which they definitely do. That way they can stay in their creative energy. It's difficult to do both.
I agree with that. I think it's a combination of two things. I think most entrepreneurs are creatives at heart because you're creating something from nothing and birthing it and seeing it come to life. And that gets you really far. And you see the fruit of your labor, you see the thing coming to life. And that process is very different than Bri, you and I talk about this a lot. What gets a business to work is pretty boring. It's actually sticking to the strategies that work and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat, grow audience, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And that is not why most entrepreneurs get into entrepreneurship. They either get into entrepreneurship because they're like, damn the man, I'm quitting this job and I'm doing my own thing, right?
Yep.
It's either that or...
Was that your impression of me? You even put on like a weird Chicago accent there. Damn the man.
I clearly hang out with you too much. No, I have all kinds of funny characters that live inside me. It's very embarrassing. But, you know, they just come out to play when they want to. But there's either that energy or you're a creative like I was from the age of 10 where I'm like, I'm going to create this thing and I'm going to sell it. And that's how I'm going to pay for the things I want. And so there, in neither of those personalities, is there the personality of, oh, right, I have to like make a plan and just do it over and over and over again and measure the data, learn from the data, make any tweaks, and then do it again. Part 2, I had a conversation with somebody, a sales conversation the other day. And I was like, what's your goal number? And I was like, Bri's going to love this. And I made it into a reel. I don't know if you saw it, but she was like, oh, more. I just want to make more. And I was like, well, more is not a number. What's the number? And she said, well, I don't want to be boxed in by a number. I don't want to put a cap. And I think that's the other part too, is like, there's this fear of if I have a strategy or something, it's going to somehow box me in or cap me, which we could get into why that's just wrong thinking anyway. But I do think, to your point, Portia, I think there is this sense of, oh, if I have to follow a plan or a strategy, I might be capping myself somehow.
Yeah.
Really interesting. I don't know. Annie's making all kinds of faces.
No,
so I need to hear what you're
this is
saying.
just so freaking fascinating because I've seen that, what both of y'all are talking about, and I completely yes and agree with it. The people I'm attracting lately, I'm seeing a whole other side that I've never seen before, which is that they're rebelling against strategy because they've been, what we were talking about before, they've been sold a one size fits all that didn't work. So why would I keep investing in strategy if strategy is snake oil? And why would I keep investing in a specialist if a specialist is going to take all my money to tell me to do exactly what they're telling her, him, them to do? And they're kind of burned out on the whole experiment. So they're mad at their marketing. They're mad at their old advisors. They're mad at themselves. They're just pissed. They're just pissed. They don't want to do it. It seems like a lot of work. It seems like more shoulds instead of less. And so what I'm always telling my clients is the right strategy is a liberator, not a box.
That's quotable right there.
But it's true though, in that so many people, and all of this is going to be through the lens of like funnels and marketing, because that's what people come to me for. So often they'll come and I market myself as a marketing fixer. So like, I'm not expecting people to show up and be like, everything in my brand is awesome. Like, I know they're going to show up and be like, which is good, which is fine, because I'm giving them a safe place to show up in. The stuff I'm hearing is all of these shoulds. Well, tell me about your relationship with your marketing. And they're like, I hate my marketing. And I'm like, well, how did it get to this point? And they're like, well, once upon a time, I hired so-and-so, and they said that I would go out of business if I didn't have a webinar. And then I built my first webinar and I really, really loved it. And I ran it for 2 days. And then my old advisor said that that one wasn't good. And I had to do this 5-part plan. So then I did this 12-part webinar and I hate it, but apparently it's going to work. And so I paid $600,000 on Facebook ads waiting for this thing to yield, and you're going to fix it. And I'm like, why aren't you running the webinar that you loved?
Yeah.
Why are you paying for Facebook ads if you hate Facebook, right? And it's like the right strategy. I come in with a machete. I'm like, you hate Facebook ads? Guess what? We need some kind of feeder. We can use something else. We got to have one. That's not the only one. You hate webinars, plural, or you hate your webinar? Because webinars can be super duper effective. Do you hate the game? Do you hate the player? Or do you hate the pieces you're playing with? Because the right thing can take the kernel of truth, can take the best practice that so many of these things are what it is sold. So many of the reasons why in a group program, like Celi was talking about, someone's like, oh, I'm going to pick that up. And it's like, no, you're not. That's a best practice for someone other than you. But we want to mine it, but we wind up with this casserole of everybody else's best practices, and ain't none of it loyal to us or in our voice or really solving a problem. And so it just becomes this mess, whereas strategy is that outline, baby. It's that backbone. If it's not in strategy, it's out of strategy. Let it go.
Well, I think to your point, Annie, like that's rare, because I come in with a strategy that I've already created for my business. And what I look for somebody else to do is like partner with me in that strategy and help me to enhance it and make it better, and also keep me accountable to that strategy, right? And like tweak me a little bit, give me your feedback. I think what's happened, especially recently with social media, is that everybody's a strategist. Celi gets it, right? Like she made a face immediately, like everyone is a business strategist. It's become trendy to be a strategist. And because of that, even those people are taking other people's strategies and they're like mixing them together to like create their own, right? So I've had lots of coaching, lots of strategy calls and things like that. I'm never impressed because I'm like, I've never seen anything I've never seen. And I think in order for what I'm looking for is like my best fit. What I'm looking for is like, ask me a ton of questions and create me something that I've never seen before. That also makes me feel like it came from me, from my brain and my heart and my vision. I think that is a gift. Like that's something that I, to be completely honest, have never seen anyone be able to do for me, because everybody is making money off of being a strategist. So you have half the population is going into entrepreneurship since COVID. And then the other half of the population is like, oh, great, we've never been an entrepreneur, but we're a strategist. And so we're going to help you. Like these people who have never built businesses, never been through what it feels like to be a business, never had to actually use a strategy.
I mean, it sucks for those of us who have been strategists for like over 10 years and now everyone's calling themselves that. But to be a real strategist, is actually really hard.
This is what I was going to say, Celi, and I'm interested to hear your perspective on this because as Portia was talking, I'm like, that's literally what I do. And I have had the hardest time over the last 4 or 5 years, like putting into words, because it's so easy for someone to say like, oh, well, all you have to do is follow these 5 steps and you'll be successful. And I'm like, right, but my 5 steps are not like, I have 1,000,005 steps. And then you take that combination of those million things into the different 5 steps. And we've got 5 million different options. I've had a really hard time just in general marketing myself to show the value of, I don't have a just slap a Band-Aid on and you're going to stop bleeding option.
Yeah.
I have a, we're going to sit down and we're going to spread out all the puzzle pieces and we're going to look at what you have going on. And then we're going to look at which ones fit with the picture you're trying to create and which ones don't fit with the picture. They need to be thrown out. And maybe there's some that you don't even see yet. There are pieces that need to be brought in. And people are just like, and I'm like, right, because true business strategy isn't just a take this pill or do this thing. That's not actually business strategy.
Well,
Yeah, it's so much work.
Because you're like, wait, I spent $20K on that.
Where's my figures?
Right?
I think there's a lot of like terminology, even like the 7-figure. That's like a big thing right now. Everybody wants to. We will all have arrived when we've made 7 figures. And coming from someone who's made 7 figures, there's so many other things that come with that, right? Like you don't just want to make 7 figures. You want to be profitable, which I didn't know. And they don't talk about that. They just talk about like you want to make 7 figures. Well, if you pay 150 people and you make 7 figures, now you're in the negative, right? So like without a strategy, you don't even go in knowing that or being able to project where you're going to end up and factoring in all the variables that count. And right now we have a lot of really young entrepreneurs who are like in their 20s, early 30s, and they are wanting that, like whatever's on TikTok, that's what they want to create. And that's how quickly they want to create. Nobody wants to do the work. I could see how that could be difficult for you guys being in a position where you're like, what you're selling is high quality and people are going to go spend thousands and thousands of dollars before they go, okay, none of that worked. Give me something that will be long lasting and that I can maybe adapt as I continue forward in my business too. And I think that's what people are missing.
I used to your point, I used to call myself the millionaire maker. And I deleted that from all my marketing and stuff. And I was talking to somebody recently. She was like, that was so clever. I loved that you called yourself that. And I was like, yeah, but it's inauthentic. Because, for example, I just had a call yesterday with a longstanding client of mine who's a huge influencer, has 150,000 followers on Instagram, beautiful woman, could easily have a 7-figure business. And yesterday she said to me, you're right. I want a 500K business and enjoy my new boyfriend and enjoy my kids. And I don't want to work more than I'm working and I want to live my life. And I was like, amen. Yeah. That's amazing. And so I stopped calling myself the millionaire maker because the truth is like, not everybody needs a 7-figure business to be a successful and happy entrepreneur in the first place. And I felt like I was boxing myself in to the people that I could actually help who want a solid business that isn't burning them out and exhausting them and they're hating it. She could easily grow a 7-figure business if she wanted to. And the fact that she'd come to that place for herself in our coaching together, I was like, yes, amazing. Let's stay here and do it in a way that you're thriving and loving your life. And she really means it.
Pardon this quick interruption. One of the biggest challenges ambitious entrepreneurs face is closing the gap between where they are and their big, big goal. I've created a resource for you that will help you navigate the journey more easily. Defy Reality, the female entrepreneur's guide to achieving her audaciously ambitious goals, will guide you through a process to 110% claim the inevitability of your big delusional goal, banish your doubts, and identify the exact steps you need to take to defy reality. Visit briseeley.com/free to get immediate access to this tool that will help you stop wasting your time so you can start defying reality. And now, back to your episode.
What I hear on the undercurrent of all of this is specificity and personalization on top of experimentation, right? And like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm hungry, but like what's coming up for me right now is macaroni and cheese. Everybody will tell you that they have the best macaroni and cheese recipe. And
really does.
Portia here, as a woman of color, I defer to you that yours is probably better than mine. Like, let's just base that right there. But even so, now we're gonna get a bunch of angry white people being like, "I can't believe you said that." I'm like, well,
I'll send samples, and
there
we'll
we
settle
go.
it.
But like, everyone is gonna say 9 out of 10 dentists cannot all recommend the same toothpaste because every toothpaste is saying that. But
Yeah.
they can say this is the best toothpaste to heal your enamel. I can't tell you I have the best macaroni and cheese recipe. I have the best macaroni and cheese recipe if you love Gouda in it and don't mind it taking all damn day. Not everybody wants Gouda in their mac and cheese. I know that. I've had Gouda in other people's mac and cheese and I haven't liked it. Some people's favorite mac and cheese is Easy Mac. Some people are lactose intolerant and some people don't like pasta. Okay? You cannot tell me you have the best macaroni and cheese recipe for all people because some people's favorite macaroni and cheese is the crappy kind that their grandma made that was their best taste because that was the joy and safety of their childhood. It matters what the recipe is for you. What are you craving and what do you need? And we always have to consider the fact that we're feeding people these strategies too. There is a recipient on the other end of this thing. So who are we feeding? Because if you're going to say that the best strategy in the entire universe is Facebook ads and advertising at a monster truck show, it very well may be if that's your target demographic. But if you don't have anyone on Facebook because they're all Gen Z, sorry, but that recipe is not going to delight your audience. No one's going to eat, and you're going to wind up with a bunch of extra food. So even though it's well intended, everybody wants to put good stuff out into the world. Everyone's promising the best recipe, and without specificity, you can't claim that.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Annie. Thinking of all of the three of you together, how do you come in? You're primarily marketing and sales, right? Strategy. What about when you come into a business that doesn't really have like its own KPIs and its own strategy already set up, and you are having to develop a marketing and sales strategy for that company that also reflects the values of the person and of, the mission of the company? How do you go about that? Because there's market research, right? That I'm assuming needs to now tell me I'm wrong, right? So there's market research. And for me, I'm like,
research is bullshit. No, I'm not ever going to say that. No, never say that. Never. No.
But I mean, like you're considering the market, but you're not necessarily following the market with a good strategy. You're still wanting to personalize. And like, what do you expect from a person the first time you work for them if they are not only not tapped into their own market, but just not really tapped into their own business strategy and direction? How do you work with people like that?
I love that question. It's easier for people to articulate what's working than what's not. And so normally when they come to me, especially as a fixer, they're like, what are we killing? What are we tearing down? What are we? And I'm like, chill, slow. Let's amplify what's working first. And so if I can get them to start looking at what's working, because the best marketing, and this again could be marketing specific, but I think it's probably transferable to other lanes. I just can't speak to those lanes because they're not mine. I tell everybody all the time that the most effective marketing strategy is the marketing you actually do. I'm not going to assign stuff to people if they're not going to do it. What's the freaking point of that? So then I'm like, cool, tell me what you're enjoying in your marketing right now, because they'll probably do more of that if I turn up the heat on it. And tell me what you perceive to be working. And then they're either going to know that on an emotional level, they're going to know that on a data level, or we're going to go dig into whatever data they have to find out what's working. Because then for me, it's very much an 80-20 Pareto principle thing of like, you have a whole lot of stuff not working or you wouldn't be here. But there's something, maybe it's your voice, maybe it's the way you treat people, maybe it's a lead magnet from 17 years ago that you totally forgot about it. But there is gold in them there hills, and we just got to find that little bit of it to amplify. So that's what I do first is I look at whatever metrics they bring me. I dig into whatever metrics I can find, but also on their emotional and resonator levels. what's working. That might
That's
be enough.
Yeah, I personally, like until 2 years ago, I had never even thought, all I knew was like, we're funded by insurance. So we get referrals all the time, right? So we were able to grow really, really, really like more quickly than I was comfortable. So then I was like, we're not going to prioritize marketing because we're not in a position to need to grow. Like we don't need customers and clients. But then I realized we do need employees to be able to like meet these clients' needs. So we need to be on like the recruitment marketing strategy side, which no one could tell me because every person in marketing and sales wants to tell me how to grow. But when you're not looking to grow, then what I learned after that, the third thing I learned was, oh, shoot, I get to have a voice that reflects me. And even if we're not growing exponentially, when we do grow, we want to grow with people who align with our brand and with our company and with our organization. We don't necessarily want the speed of growth, which I can imagine that when people come to you, they're also looking to make more money, get more clients. Like they're looking to go bigger. And for us, we were looking to go deeper. And I
Yes.
realized that's a different marketing like strategy too, right?
Well,
like
what
never
are you growing? For you, you need to keep growing your relevance. You need to keep growing your legitimacy. You need to keep growing awareness because it's already working. So you want to put beautiful sprinkles on a great cupcake. For everybody else, they're still baking that cake, and that's totally okay. You want to take a good thing and make it better. I love the way that you put that because your growth goal is not revenue. It's attracting top tier talent.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. So how do we do that? We make sure that you're growing the reputation of being the best employer in the whole dang industry. That's different marketing. That's marketing to a different thing. Then again, if you brought in an outside advisor who's like, you want to bring in top tier talent, here's all the things that you should do. How did you get your last best hire? Where did they come from? What about company culture did they get right away? How do we go get more them? That's still based on what's working first.
Yeah, I love that.
One of the things that's kind of been an undercurrent around most of the stuff we've talked about, and I specifically heard it when Annie was talking earlier, is this idea that what we say no to is almost just as important, if not more important, than what we say yes to. And how do we then have the courage to, like Celi talked about earlier, put down the shiny object and trust that just because it worked for someone else does not therefore mean that it is for us.
That's hard to do. It's hard to do because when you're looking left and right, which is something I really try not to do, I try to always be looking within. But when you're looking left,
quotable. Jeez.
Yeah,
it's
important, and it's hard to do because when you're looking left and right, sometimes it feels like you're being lapped. I'm a naturally very like competitive person. I'm also like a personal best type of competitive. So I want us all to win, but also like I'm running my hardest and you better just keep up. It can feel like you're doing it wrong sometimes when you're trying to do it the way that other people are doing it and you don't realize you are doing it wrong because it's not for you. Or you get to this place, like Celi said earlier, you're building this thing and you're like climbing this mountain and you get to the top and you're like, I don't even like this. This isn't even where I want to be. I created from someone else's vision and I hate this actually, which is like very humbling.
I'm going to give the non-sexy answer to you, Bri. I think that in order to stick to the thing and not be tempted by the shiny object and what everyone else is doing is, are you measuring it?
Yeah.
I literally have to bake in calls in my program where we all sit together, kumbaya style, and I'm like, pull out your dashboards. What are we measuring this week, guys? I think about it a lot and say, I get it. If I was to go on a diet tomorrow and I hired the best personal trainer in the world and she gave me an entire detailed diet plan and workout plan and handed it to me and said, Celi, go do it.
Man, this is good. Like all four of us are like, I got something to say about this. Celi, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
No, I totally agree with you. I think the reason we have a hard time marketing ourselves is because what we do is not the popular, trendy thing. And you got to understand that people in marketing, I mean, this is Annie's field, but in marketing, people understand the words that they're most often already being fed. So when you say, oh no, strategy is not that. It's not the generic 5 steps of this program, but it's like, I do this, you and I are like, soul sisters. I do the same thing. Everyone in my programs get custom time with me and a custom strategy built by me. And they're just like, what is this? And I'm like, don't look at her. Do not look at her. Do not compare yourself to her. No, stop it. No, you're not doing that. And they're really surprised by it. But it's harder for us to sell because it's not in the zeitgeist. Think about in psychology and therapy, just in the past 2 to 3 years, words that nobody would have been saying and floating around 5 years ago, right? But we're all more aware of, I don't know, it's not my field, but anxiety or certain ailments because TikTok is selling them to us. You and I are up against the terminology that's most commonly used. And what's most commonly used is use my formula for the 7-figure business. And so when you tell somebody who's being fed that all day, even if they realize it or not, because they're on different platforms and their brain is taking in information all day. And you go, actually, that thing you probably spent 10K for, or 15K, or 20K, or 25, that thing you spent that much money on, it's not going to work for you because of X, Y, and Z. They almost can't hear it. Bad bitch, disciplined, competitive Celi would not do it because I haven't built the muscle memory to do it. So that's why I've now baked into my programs, I get it. I have to hold your hand. We're building a new muscle. We're getting into the habit of, I have a strategy. This is the strategy plan. And I am actually going to be pulled off of that plan by my friends, my family, my colleagues, Instagram, and even the people in this group. And so I have to bake in implementation and accountability within my programs and just go, did you measure it? Did the webinar, how many people showed? How many people, converted? What we have to measure the steps. And that's how you know if the strategy is working or not by looking left or right and not by even how you feel that day. I mean, how many times have you done something in your marketing that felt great and it flopped or felt terrible and people were like, that was amazing?
Yeah.
Because you can't measure based on how you're feeling most of the time. So that's my non-sexy, very data strategist answer to that.
I think that's sexy as hell. I love it.
That's because you like data.
I was going to say, of course, Data went over here. I was like, ooh.
Speaking my love language.
I love that.
Data is an excellent source of dopamine. When I avoided my numbers, I mean, this is me being an armchair psychologist, but I used to not look at any numbers. This is when my business was floundering and failing and I had no strategy and all the things. Because I'm like, look, if I just stay positive, if I just stay above it, then But I was one of the people Celi was talking about where it's how much money do you want to make? And it's more. And it's stop it. Give me a number, please. But what I realized is that I love my data now because I love control.
Yeah.
And so I am falling madly in love with Google ads right now, even though they're horrible and terrible and awful to master, but I'm going to because there's my competitive, Portia. I'm I will compete with me for forever. And right now I am in a battle with Google ads and we are going to see eye to eye. But in the meantime, I'm burning a lot of money. And I'm burning a lot of time. And I knew that going in because I'm experimenting and I've never done this experimentation before. However, what delights me now is going in and seeing which keywords aren't working, which times aren't working. How the heck is my ad showing so much in Bangladesh? And how do I turn that off? Those are the things now that even bad data, I'm going at this with Columbo MacGyver energy. I'm ooh, how do we stamp that out? And then when I get a good hit, it's ooh, there's my little dopamine. My click-through rate on that email was 11%. I wasn't expecting that. How did I get that? And now my data feeds me and fuels me even when it's negative because it shows me where to pour a little love.
Yeah, it tells a story.
I did an interview series last week, and one of the women said, money is just numbers, and numbers is just data, and data can be changed. What I love about the it's just data conversation is when we are willing to look at our data, when we are willing to look at what's working, what's not working, where do I want to be, what are my metrics, then we can actually do something about it. I think so many people are scared to look at their data because they're going to feel a certain way about it. But at the end of the day, it's not the data that's making you feel that way. That's your trauma, honey. Speaking of being an armchair psychologist, that's your trauma. You got to deal with that shit with your therapist. Data is not trauma. And once we are able to look at our data and know what our data is communicating to us, then we get to make different decisions and then we get to change it. And then, speaking of being a control freak, who has the power?
Yeah.
You do, which is great.
Power.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally why I call the tool that I built, I call it the Grown-Ass Business Control Center.
I
Because
love that.
I was like, no, it's not a dashboard. It's a control center. All of my clients in some way are a control freak. And so I'm like, if we actually start looking at the numbers and what's working and we're doing the tracking, you get control back. But like you, Annie, I mean, people never believe this. In my fashion business for 10 years, I refused to look at the numbers.
Same.
Have we ever had that conversation? I didn't know that. But I believed I was a creative and I was a designer and my business was going to succeed based off of my creativity and hard work and not my numbers. Oh my God, we really are sisters. It's sick.
The first time Celi and I met, I was like, I think we're twins. And Annie introduced us, and Annie didn't even know some of the overlap that we have. This is why I actually think, I didn't get to answer earlier, but I'll circle back around. This is why I actually think that people are so uncomfortable with strategy, is because we are like, well, I'm just really good at what I do. So and that was me in my fashion business. I was like, I'm fucking fantastic. I was on the cover of Apparel News. I was in Women's Wear Daily. I was dressing celebrities. I've dressed Toni Braxton. I've sold on Zappos.com. Like, I've done all these things. I'm like, I'm really good at what I do. I shouldn't need a strategy, right? Like, my merit should just carry my business forward and it'll all just happen. And so I think that people are uncomfortable with strategy because they simply haven't learned it yet. It's like they know the language of their craft, but they haven't yet learned the language of business. And being a good craftsman is not craftswoman is not the same as being a good businesswoman. They're very different. They take different skill sets. They take different knowledge centers. They take different approaches. You have to learn both languages because just being good at your craft does not therefore equal being successful in business.
Yeah. Well, that's such a great point because that's what we're doing when we're employees and making that transition.
Absolutely.
We just never our mindset as an employee, you just being good at what you do, the best at what you do is always reinforcing. That's how you move up. That's how you keep going. That is literally how we made more money, was like just being really good at it. And then we become an entrepreneur and we're like, I don't know how to do any of this shit. I don't know. It's like
also uncomfortable. Right? It's also, it's uncomfortable in that moment where you're like, I am so good at my thing. Wait, shit, there's all this stuff I'm not good at.
Yeah.
That's where like the trauma piece of it comes in. Cause it's like, I always tell my clients, I'm going to make you look at some of the stuff you've been avoiding and I'm going to make it fun and funny. And we're going to hold hands and we're going to do it together. Don't worry. But you're going to start looking at the stuff that's been like hiding in the closet. And then you're going to create a relationship with those things that you've been avoiding because of the very thing that you said.
I'm back on mac and cheese. In that, you can be in your domain expertise. You can be truly excellent. Maybe you're not claiming to have the best mac and cheese, but you have some real good product. If you don't look at your numbers, you don't know how many noodles to buy. You don't know how much money you're spending on noodles, and you don't know how much money you have left over to buy cheese, and you don't know how much money you have left over to tell people about your amazing macaroni and cheese restaurant that no one's ever going to be able to go to if they don't know it exists. The whole like, oh, I'm a creative, my goodwill should be enough. Well, yes, but if you're running your business out of a home kitchen in northern Idaho and you've never told anyone about your mac and cheese, your dog's going to get real fat because all that product's got to go somewhere if you're not looking at those numbers.
Yeah.
Don't know why that's the rant of the day, but
I love it. Y'all, I can't believe we've hit 45 minutes again. This in the last episode, I'm just like, how did it get to be? I feel like we still have so much more to cover. All right, let's wrap with just one final thought, like a little bite-sized something to leave the listeners with.
I will say when you are developing your strategy, whether you're doing it on your own or whether you are seeking out support for that and hiring a strategist, that you come into the conversation really understanding where you're going, what you want, what your values are, what your mission is, really understanding the personal part of why you're doing what you're doing. That helps to explain to someone who's coming in to coach you really where you want to go versus like, this is where I'm going. That, sometimes people just don't know the difference. And like Celi said earlier, we're building things that they're not necessarily what we want to be building. So I think being really, really connected with what it is that we want out of the business for ourselves and then also for the world is really important.
Yeah, that was good. I would say if you're concerned or curious about what is the right strategy for me, one of the ways to start even really getting honest about what that could be for you is to remove the blinders a little bit and just start to observe yourself and observe the things you're avoiding. Whatever is that thing that you keep putting off, whatever that thing on your task list that you're not doing. Some people don't like marketing and telling the town about their macaroni and cheese. And some people don't like counting and figuring out how many macaroni noodles they have to buy, right? Figure out what is that thing that you keep avoiding doing or you put off to the end of the day or end of the week. And there's probably some mega gold in that thing you're avoiding.
I love that.
Ms. Ruggles, any last thoughts?
Y'all, you have permission to kill stuff that's not working, even if you spent money on it.
Oh,
Especially
even
if
I don't
it's
care how much money you spent on it.
Right? Sunk cost principle. Google it. We don't have time to go into it now. It's real and it'll help you feel less mired to the people you've paid that maybe weren't as worth it or the things that you've tried so hard. The more money or the more time you've sunk into something so far, the harder it is to kill. That doesn't mean you can't kill it.
What is it called? The illusion of sunk cost? Or
The sunk cost principle. Yeah. Or the sunk cost inquiry or the sunk cost fallacy. It's got a whole bunch of different things. But like, y'all, you have permission to kill stuff if it's not working and you not enjoying it. You're not going to love everything. To Celi's point, you're not going to love counting all your noodles. But if you actively dislike an element of your strategy, you have permission to kill it if you allocate that same time, energy, and compassion with yourself and find a different way to reinvest back in. So go kill what's not working or what you don't like, as long as you go experiment and find something you do.
Oh, I love that. We really have a responsibility the business depends on killing the things that aren't working. It's necessary. It's beyond permission. I know we all need it, but it is necessary. We're drowning in the things that aren't working.
Yeah. And for anyone listening, if you want to go deeper on that topic, the building a business to fit your life, all four of us have killed businesses and we talk about it in depth on that episode. So if you're looking for more permission to go kill stuff and feel good about it, because all of us were like, that was the best thing we ever did, go listen to the Building a Business to Fit Your Life episodes. I just want to say thank you. This was incredible. I knew that all three of you would be so good in this episode. Thank you all so much. Your knowledge, your wisdom, this was so great. For anyone listening, make sure you're subscribed. Check out the other episodes available. And thank you so much for joining us on the Big Goal Energy Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Big Goal Energy. We trust that it fueled your ambition and made you feel seen. We are a community of ambitious female entrepreneurs like you. Come join us in the Big Goal Energy community by visiting briseeley.com/community. In the meantime, send your questions for us to cover in the episodes to info@briseeley.com. Together, we'll turn your audacious dreams into remarkable achievements. Cheers to defying reality. See you on the next episode.